Hey y'all, it's day 5 of 22 push-ups for veteran suicide awareness. Yesterday I talked about the returning warriors' need to come home and be able to tell their war stories to the community so that they are no longer the sole vessel of war's anger, guilt, and shame, as well as so that the community can no longer ignore the atrocities of war. Today I want to talk about a different aspect of storytelling because it does actually have its shadow side. Oftentimes when we're in combat, we can feel this sense of high because we've never felt so alive as when we've walked so close to death. And quite often in some of the groups that I've been a part of, I've said, many times, I've never felt so close to God as when I was in Afghanistan. And I'm not saying that, God was sitting next to me, justifying my actions or my reasons for being there. It was more of a relational closeness to God. It was more of I felt God protecting me closeness. And, quite often I desire that level of closeness again, that I felt there in Afghanistan. But oftentimes we can come home and we can engage ourselves in many very destructive behaviors that in order to kind of emulate that high, we can get addicted to patterns of just constantly becoming involved in life-threatening situations, constantly getting into fights, going on drunken binges, having compulsive sex, among many other things. But storytelling can actually be one of those compulsive addictions to constantly tell your story, to constantly just get that high from that story. And this is the incorrect way to use that, because when we're using it in that fashion, it hinders the actual coming home process. It doesn't allow us to come home. And Edward Tick writes, to the extent that veterans use it, storytelling, to get the rush, the storytelling becomes compulsive and so counterproductive to healing. As Robert J. Lifton observes, compulsive war storytelling can become a means for veterans to hide from rather than access their feelings. And our culture, which craves various forms of getting high, exacerbates the problem by encouraging stories that glorify war in order to gain a vicarious thrill. Thus, the compulsive storytelling reinforces our strange cultural ambivalence about war. We can get high on war stories while shunning war's reality and failing its victims. So the reason that we're telling these stories makes a difference. We're telling the story to access our feelings so that we know how we feel about the things that happened to us in combat, the things that we did in combat. We're trying to access our feelings so that we can share that with the community, so that we can transfer that moral weight of war making to the community. We're not telling the story to show people how awesome we are. We're not telling war stories to for bragging rights or anything like that. For this purpose, we're telling stories in order to heal. I'm going to knock these push-ups out, and I'll see you tomorrow. Y'all have a good night.